the depths of human experience lies a paradox that has puzzled philosophers and seekers for millennia. Our greatest weaknesses often become the doorways to our most profound strengths. The ancient Greeks understood this through their concept of the golden mean, where virtue exists not in extremes but in the delicate balance between opposing forces. Today, as we navigate an increasingly complex world that demands perfection at every turn, we find ourselves confronting an age-old truth that shame, that most corrosive of emotions, holds within it the seeds of our liberation. The journey toward authentic self-discovery begins with a radical acceptance of what Carl Jung called the shadow self, those aspects of our being that we desperately try to hide from the world and often from ourselves. Shame thrives in darkness, feeding on secrecy and isolation, whispering lies about our fundamental unworthiness. Yet when we dare to illuminate these hidden corners of our psyche with the light of conscious awareness, something miraculous occurs. The monster we feared becomes merely human, and in that recognition we discover our capacity for profound compassion. Vulnerability, contrary to what our achievement-oriented culture teaches us, is not a sign of weakness but rather the birthplace of courage, creativity, and change. When we allow ourselves to be seen in our imperfection, we create space for authentic connection. The Stoic philosophers understood this principle deeply, teaching that our power lies not in controlling external circumstances, but in choosing our response to them. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and this insight becomes particularly relevant when we examine how shame operates in our lives. The architecture of shame is built upon comparison and the illusion of separateness. We convince ourselves that others live in a state of perpetual perfection, while we alone struggle with doubt, fear, and inadequacy. This cognitive distortion, what Buddhist philosophy calls maya or illusion, prevents us from recognizing our shared humanity. The truth is that every person you encounter is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying wounds that may never fully heal, and questioning their worth in moments of solitude. Empathy becomes the antidote to shame not because it erases our imperfections but because it reminds us that imperfection is the common thread that weaves through every human story. When we encounter another's vulnerability with compassion rather than judgment, we create what researcher Brené Brown calls shame resilience. This resilience is not built through toughening our exterior, but through softening our interior, allowing ourselves to feel deeply without drowning in those feelings. The cultivation of courage in the face of imperfection requires what the existentialist philosopher Søren Kierkegaard termed a leap of faith. Not necessarily faith in a divine being, but faith in the possibility that our authentic selves are worthy of love and belonging exactly as they are. This leap is terrifying because it requires us to release the false identities we have constructed to protect ourselves from rejection. The personas we wear, the achievements we accumulate, the approval we seek, all of these become secondary to the primary task of being genuine. In the realm of personal development, we often encounter the misconception that growth means transcending our humanity rather than embracing it more fully. The ancient philosophy of Taoism offers a different perspective through the concept of wu wei, or effortless action. This principle suggests that true power comes not from forcing ourselves into predetermined molds, but from flowing with our natural essence, including our perceived flaws and limitations. The river does not shame itself for having curves. It uses them to navigate the landscape with grace and purpose. Self-compassion emerges as perhaps the most revolutionary practice in our journey toward wholeness. Kristin Neff's research in this field reveals that treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a good friend actually enhances our motivation and resilience, rather than making us complacent. The inner critic that drives us with shame and harsh self-judgment is not the voice of ambition, but of fear. When we learn to speak to ourselves with gentleness, we create the psychological safety necessary for genuine growth and transformation. The process of accepting our imperfections is not about lowering our standards or abandoning our aspirations. Rather, it is about recognizing that excellence and perfection are fundamentally different pursuits. Excellence flows from a deep understanding of our capabilities and limitations, while perfectionism stems from a desperate attempt to earn worthiness through flawless performance. The former is sustainable and fulfilling. The latter is exhausting and ultimately futile. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, or love of fate, invites us to not merely accept our circumstances, but to embrace them as necessary components of our unique path. Our mistakes, failures, and moments of profound vulnerability are not obstacles to overcome, but experiences to integrate. They become the raw material from which wisdom is forged and authenticity is born. The scars we carry tell the story of our survival and resilience, marking us not as damaged goods but as triumphant warriors. In relationships, the power of imperfection manifests through deeper intimacy and connection. When we drop our masks and allow others to witness our struggles, we give them permission to do the same. This mutual vulnerability creates bonds that superficial interactions based on projected perfection can never achieve. The Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, serves as a powerful metaphor for human relationships. Our cracks and repairs become sources of beauty and strength rather than reasons for shame. The search for meaning in life often leads us to believe that purpose must be grand and exceptional. However, Viktor Frankl's experiences in Nazi concentration camps revealed that meaning can be found in the smallest acts of courage and compassion, even in the darkest circumstances. Our imperfections and struggles do not disqualify us from a meaningful existence. They qualify us for a deeply human one. The mother who struggles with patience finds meaning in small moments of connection with her child. The artist who battles self-doubt discovers purpose in creating beauty despite uncertainty. Mindfulness practices, rooted in ancient Buddhist traditions, offer practical tools for developing a healthier relationship with our imperfections. When we observe our thoughts and emotions without immediately judging or trying to change them, we create space for acceptance. This witnessing consciousness allows us to see that we are not our shame, our anxiety, or our failures. We are the awareness that observes these experiences, and from this perspective, we can choose how to respond rather than react automatically. The concept of beginner's mind, or Shoshin in Zen Buddhism, reminds us that expertise can become a prison if it prevents us from remaining open to new learning and growth. When we embrace our imperfections, we maintain this beginner's mind throughout our lives, approaching each day with curiosity rather than the crushing weight of having to know everything or be everything to everyone. This openness becomes the foundation for continuous evolution and self-discovery. Courage, as Maya Angelou beautifully expressed, is not the absence of fear but action in the presence of fear. The courage to be imperfect is the courage to be fully alive. It means showing up to our lives even when we do not feel ready, speaking our truth even when our voice trembles, and loving even when we risk being hurt. This courage is not a one-time decision, but a daily practice of choosing authenticity over approval, connection over comfort, and growth over the illusion of safety. The transformation that occurs when we embrace our imperfections ripples outward, affecting not only our individual lives but the lives of those around us. Children raised by adults who model self-compassion and vulnerability learn that it is safe to be human. Workplaces led by individuals who acknowledge their limitations become environments where innovation and collaboration flourish. Communities built on the foundation of shared humanity rather than competitive comparison become sources of healing and support. As we conclude this exploration of imperfection's power, we must remember that this journey is not about achieving a permanent state of self-acceptance. Like all meaningful pursuits, it requires ongoing attention and practice. There will be days when shame whispers loudly, when old patterns of self-criticism resurface, and when vulnerability feels too risky. In these moments, we return to the simple truth that our worthiness is not contingent upon our performance, but inherent in our existence. The path forward is not about becoming someone new, but about remembering who we have always been, beneath the layers of conditioning and fear. We are beings capable of profound love and creativity, deserving of compassion and belonging, worthy of a life lived with courage and authenticity. Our imperfections are not bugs in the system, but features that make us uniquely valuable and irreplaceably human. When shame knocks at the door of our consciousness, may we greet it not with resistance but with understanding, knowing that its presence signals an opportunity for deeper self-compassion and connection with others. May we remember that in a world that profits from our self-doubt, self-love becomes a radical act of rebellion. And may we find the courage to be imperfect, knowing that in doing so we give others permission to do the same, creating ripples of healing that extend far beyond our individual lives into the collective consciousness of humanity itself. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the other recommended videos here beside. They are a continuation of this journey of self-discovery and reflection. Subscribe for more content that will awaken your inner potential.